All right. This is a response to David Pakman's video, Pro-Police Republicans Laugh at and Ridicule Police Officers. And I have a feeling this is going to be about this thing, whatever, where the Democrats trotted people out to talk about how horrible the protest, the riot, whatever it was at the Capitol. I'm imagining that's what this is going to be. I think this was released yesterday. Might have been today. I'm not positive. But let's see what David's got to say today.
You know, one of the biggest scams perpetrated and perpetuated by the American right is that they are the patriotic ones. They are the ones who support the troops. They are the ones who support the police. They are the ones who are about America first. And as if you needed more proof that this is an utter and pathetic lie, over the last 24 hours, we have seen, first of all, Republicans, right-wingers, and right-wing media hosts literally root against the United States in the Olympics, rooting against the women's soccer team, rooting for other countries to win, make fun of gymnast Simone Biles for her pulling out of competition yesterday / the day before yesterday with the time difference with Tokyo. I don't know exactly when it was, over the last 24 to 36 hours, making fun of her. Not exactly America first patriotic behavior.
What is the deal with the Olympics? I haven't heard about this. I'm going to have to look it up. Why do Republicans not like the Olympics? Yeah, I don't know. I thought that was like the patriotic. They were all pissed off at the NFL because of the Kaepernick thing, but I don't know. That's weird.
In terms of how you would relate to or discuss someone who's halfway around the world representing the United States in athletic competition. And then yesterday, after the first day of testimony of the House Select Committee investigating the January 6th Trump riots, after 4 police officers whose lives were threatened as they attempted to defend the Capitol on January 6th, widely, Republicans and right-wing media hosts ridiculed the police officers and laughed at the police officers and made a mockery of the things that they said in their testimony yesterday. We're going to look at some clips, and just remember when you look at this, they say they support police.
Okay, I have heard from Democrats, from left-wing people, that this was kind of ridiculous. So I haven't seen it yet, but I have heard that this was kind of a ridiculous thing. Even from people I know who are very on the left.
Police, they say they defend law enforcement. They call themselves patriotic. Here is Tucker Carlson literally chuckling at the things we heard from one of the officers, Officer Fanone, yesterday. Look at this.
People he doesn't agree with in Washington. And that is unacceptable, and it should make you very nervous. Watch Fanone cite the psychological trauma he endured as an excuse for ditching our Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
I've been left with the psychological trauma and the emotional anxiety of having survived such a horrific event.
A very dismissive chuckle from Tucker Carlson. This guy, we're supposed to believe he's a patriot and that he supports the troops and he supports police. Except when he doesn't, because it's just really not convenient. It's really...
Okay, I have a feeling... I mean, I am no fan of Tucker Carlson. I think if there's anyone... I can't say this. I don't know anything about the guy. But if there was anyone where I would think he actually grew up in some, like, ultra-rich, ultra-racist kind of, like, bizarro land, it'd be Tucker. I mean, I don't know. He might not be racist, whatever. But, man, he's got the... he just totally has the vibes of, like, I want to look like a blue-collar guy, but we ate caviar after going duck hunting in Bohemian Grove as a child. You know, like, I don't know. He's not my favorite, but I'm going to guess that this is going to have something to do with that he's probably talking about the hypocrisy between how the left characterized the BLM riots versus the Capitol riot. That'd be my guess.
Not convenient, because if you say, wow, we should listen to the testimony of these officers, it implies some really horrible things about the people who participated in those Trump riots. Next, here is a clip from Newsmax. This is host Grant Stinkfield. Grant has never been a law enforcement officer, didn't serve in the military, but he refers to Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger, who is a veteran, as a pansy, and then he mocks another Capitol police officer when the police officer told us that he thought he was actually going to die on January 6th. Let's look at the next clip.
And later on from other law enforcement agencies, I'm afraid to think what could have happened on January 6th.
So, Grant, that's a pretty good question. Do you expect that this will answer that question or pursue it further?
No.
I love that he's reading the statement. I think the statement may have actually backfired on him because, you know, the leader of the Capitol Police really is Nancy Pelosi.
By the way, what does it mean, I love that he's reading the statement? Is that like a dig at that officer is from the Dominican Republic? Is it a dig at the guy's English language proficiency? I don't even know what it means that he says, I love that he's reading it. Like, oh, if he wasn't reading it, he wouldn't be able to speak. I don't even understand what that means.
So you've got to ask Nancy Pelosi about why they didn't have the backup they so-called needed. But, you know, Heather, as I watched this hearing, they told us it wasn't going to be political. And then I got this pansy of a Congressman, Adam Kinzinger, crying as if he can't hold it together here. It's nonsensical. It's about the most political thing I've ever seen. It is all theater, typical to Democratic fashion. It is all based in emotion. I'm having a real hard time believing a lot of what I'm hearing because the video doesn't back up nearly all of it. One officer said he thought it was going to be the moment he died. Well, there were no guns at this place. I've watched guns at Black Lives Matter protests and riots. I've watched bricks being thrown at officers during Black Lives.
Now, this was addressed extensively, and there was not only a very long list of weapons described by the officers, but also officers described the belief that there were firearms there. Although we should be glad that the protesters didn't start shooting. That's something to be happy about, not indignant about.
Lives Matter, Antifa riots. I didn't see any of that during this. So this is going to be a partisan event. Brace yourselves. I refuse to lead my show with it tonight. We will most certainly talk about it, but there's no way I am giving this sham of a hearing the due of being at the top of my program.
Yeah, so Stinkfield will be talking about it, but he's not going to lead the show with it. Very principled and defiant production decision there by Grant Stinkfield. Not very deferential to police. Not back the blue, not the thin blue line. It's none of that stuff all of a sudden because they only care about that when it's convenient.
Okay, to be fair, he cut off the Tucker clip. And so I would not be surprised if you go into that. He's talking about the difference in treatment between the BLM riots and those riots. Also, to be fair, there were a ton of videos from that day. And, like, the day that it was happening, all of the live streams, it looked extremely calm. Like, it did not look crazy at all. And then, like, the longer we went, the more insane, crazy, violent videos dominated the coverage. So my guess would be that there were a couple of nutty pockets, and that they're pushing those clips out above everything else. But, like, I don't know. There were live streams while that was happening, and I mean, it definitely didn't look like Seattle during the BLM riots. So I have a feeling that David's not exactly being fair here, but let's see.
Here's Republican Congressman Jim Banks. This is one of the guys that Nancy Pelosi said, no, you're not going to be on this panel. He is blaming the police for what happened on January 6th. Wow.
So today was the first day, again, tragic stories from Capitol Police officers, experiences that never should have happened.
Right.
If the leadership of the Capitol Police and those who oversaw the Capitol Police would have done their job leading up to January 6th, we would have trained the Capitol Police officers.
So what happened to the police on January 6th is the fault of the police because of what they didn't do leading up to January 6th. I see. It's the fact that Trump incited a riot and then they rioted.
Okay, this too. He could be talking about the politicians. He could be talking about the, funding and training. He could be talking about so many different things. He could have been talking about the resources that the police had. This is really, he's clipping these in a really gross way. I have a feeling that he's purposefully being misleading with how he's cutting these up. I don't know. I'm not looking up all these videos. I don't have time, but I mean, I will. Maybe I'll do it tomorrow.
Beat police officers with flagpoles and bear spray and all this different stuff. It's the fault of the police, guys. Remember, this guy supports the police. He's all very much pro law enforcement.
We would have given them better equipment. We would have warned them about the intelligence report, and I believe that January 6th would have been a lot different if the Capitol Police leadership would have done their job, if there would have been true leadership at the top and oversight. That didn't happen. And why are...
Yeah, so equipment and information being shared with them. So he's not blaming the police. Not that, I mean, who cares, but yeah, he's literally, like, directly misinterpreting what this guy's saying.
Those questions not allowed to be asked on this committee? What is the speaker trying to hide by not allowing me and Jim Jordan in the room to ask questions about exactly?
Well, Jim Jordan we're going to talk about a little bit later, but it's becoming increasingly clear that Jim Jordan has no place on that committee because he's an accomplice. He can't possibly investigate it because he appears to have been an accomplice, and we'll get to that a little bit later. Jim Banks, of course, also voted not to certify the election, part of perpetuating the big lie. These people are truly disgusting. And then lastly, here's Laura Ingraham from Fox News. She actually had the gall to call the testimony from the officers' performances and ridiculed them by giving out performance awards. Take a look at this.
I want you to get to the bottom of that.
We have more on him in a moment, but it's not about politics at all. And for best performance in an action role, the winner is Michael Fanone.
Too many are now telling me that hell doesn't exist, or that hell actually wasn't that bad. The indifference shown to my colleagues is disgraceful.
All right, so Laura Ingraham making a mockery of the entire thing. And this is the movement that claims they support police. This is the movement that claims that they are the defenders of law enforcement. But that's only when it's convenient to them. These people are really disgusting. Like many people I know, I've struggled with issues like eye strain from looking at a computer screen for many hours of the day. My work involves working with a computer. When they became a sponsor, Blue Blocks is a company. Glasses are blocking out that blue light. I'm not getting the eye strain. I'm not worldwide on orders over 150.
Okay, so that's it. I don't know. I would need to look up all of these videos. I'd really need to dig into this. This seems like he's being kind of sleazy here. I mean, in general, from talking to people on both sides of the political spectrum, I think that this is a fundamental difference in worldview. I mean, it seems like to the left, it doesn't matter how long any violence or any destruction was taking place, or how much property was destroyed, or how many people were killed, or any like actual statistics on the Capitol riots versus the BLM riots. Like, to left-wing people, it seems like the BLM protests had something that they feel is super legitimate in terms of a cause, and they see the Capitol building as like extremely unique, like in some ways sacred. Where, I mean, obviously, I mean, the left wing is pro bigger government, so you would probably expect them to place more value in government institutions. And then for the right wing, it seems totally flipped, right? Like, people work hard to start their businesses, and this is people's livelihoods, and these protesters are just burning it down and destroying it, versus like the Capitol, where the right wing doesn't particularly like the federal government. I mean, the name of this channel is Anti-Federalist. Like, if someone ran for president saying, my campaign is geared at dropping nuclear bombs on the IRS, the White House, and Congress, then yeah, I'd probably vote for him. Like, I could not care less about the Capitol building. And, you know, I'm on an extreme side of the spectrum, but it seems like Republicans are not fans of the federal government and don't see the Capitol building as sacred and special, but they do see people's livelihoods and people's private businesses as sacred and special. And so you're getting these two things where the left wants to say, oh, this was so much worse because it was an attack on our democracy. It was a, you know, whatever. And the right is going, it's a government building. They work for us. You were burning down people's businesses. And, you know, on this particular issue, I'm like further to the right than the right. I mean, yeah, burn down the Capitol. I don't care. But you mess with people's stuff, you're asking to get shot. I mean, that's my perspective on it. But, I mean, in both instances, like, if the right was correct, if the Trump people were right, that the election was stolen and, like, their vote didn't matter and, you know, whatever, that the country was being taken over by some authoritarian regime that was willing to cheat to take power, then they'd be totally justified in doing what they did. And the left, at the same, if they were right that, like, the country's super racist and black people are just getting shot and killed randomly by police all the time, and it's a genocide against black people, and they're just, you know, being taken out and publicly executed one by one, then they'd be totally justified in what they did. Now, I haven't seen any evidence to show that the election was stolen. And the evidence I've seen on police killings, it's been like, you know, 12 to 23 a year, pretty consistently, unarmed black men killed by the police for like a long time. It doesn't seem like there's anything, you know, and obviously, if assuming that all of those unarmed people that were killed by police were unjustified killings, then, like, obviously that's a travesty for that number of people. But this is also a country of 330 million people. There's something like 100 million police calls a year, and I mean, it's super convenient that you know, the number of unarmed black men getting shot by police didn't change at all when Biden took office, but we don't hear about any of them as soon as Biden took office, you know. And when you're talking about 20 people a year in 125 million police calls, and there have been a couple of studies on, in a given police interaction, are black people more likely to be killed than white people? And from what I've seen and read, it looks like if you're black, you're more likely to be a victim of violence, but you're actually a little bit less likely to end up killed. And that could have something to do with the rate of gun ownership in the white community versus the black community too. I'm not saying I don't have the expertise to like dig into this data, but that number of people relative to the size of the population is certainly not a genocide either. I don't see the evidence of the genocide and the indiscriminate. I see a ton of attention getting put on horrible acts, but somewhat random acts when you pay attention to the overall numbers relative to the population and the number of police encounters. Now that's just on the racial side. Like, I will be the first person to say the police have completely overstepped their bounds in the United States. Like, we are at a total breaking point. There's just no constitutional protection anymore. They generally do what they want. And our police feel like gangs sometimes, especially in California. When I was in California, it was crazy. But the actual, like, racialized motive for the BLM riots seems unjustified. And I've asked a lot of people who are really into it, how many unarmed black people do you think are killed by police each year? And I've gotten crazy responses, like thousands, tens of thousands. Like, people have no idea where this actually falls in terms of severity or numbers or the actual risk going on. So both of them seem pretty stupid to me. But, you know, I don't know, property damage is property damage. Rioting is rioting. Both of these sides trying to say our side is good and justified and their side is evil and scary. It's kind of ridiculous. I don't know what happened at this hearing, but yeah, both sides just seem out of their minds. So if anyone ever sees this video, it'll be fun to get responses from both the left and the right. But it doesn't look like the election is stolen, and it doesn't look like the police in the United States are acting as the Gestapo and going out and genociding black people. So both sides should probably just chill the hell out, or we should just riot until no black people are ever killed by the police. You know, whatever, give them their own colony or something, or stop policing their neighborhoods and leave it to them, or I don't know, something. Whatever the BLM people really want at the end of the day, whatever their long-term goal is, maybe we should just give it to them. And maybe we should burn down the Capitol building. Like, that doesn't sound that bad either. Let's just let everyone have what they want. And if it's terrible, then at least it'll be interesting. But yeah, I don't like Pakman's video here. I kind of want to look up those videos he was clipping, and I kind of want to watch this hearing. But this seemed disingenuous. So David Pakman, if you ever see this video, come on, bro. Like, that was a little bit ridiculous.